Oh, damn. I almost forgot the intro music. Intro music. Let me try that again. Redo. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Cue the intro music. All right, all right, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in with me. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. So tonight I'm going to be going over the presidential debate between Trump and Biden. I know I'm a little bit late, but I've had a few people tell me it was something I needed to watch. I've seen some clips of it, mainly all the ones that make Biden look bad. But before I get too far into it, let me go ahead and get this out the way. Tonight's sponsor, Blackberry Crown Royal. Go ahead, get you some. It's pretty good. Drink responsibly. Now with my sip out of the way, let's go ahead and share my screen here. Oh, shoot. I did the wrong thing. Hold up. Share screen. And boom. All right, here we are. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'll put myself down here in the corner. I have full screen this bad boy. Now, I'm not going to talk all throughout the video. I'm going to try and let segments go through uninterrupted without my commentary. If you do want to watch the video on your own without my commentary, the link's in the description below. Sorry for anyone on my official page, In the Middle with Malcolm. Facebook just changed some of their live guidelines. So they're only letting a select few pages go live. Mainly if your page hasn't been around for a couple of months or you don't have X amount of likes or followers, then they're not going to allow you to just go live. So, sorry, I won't be able to do this live stream all the way from my official page, but I will go ahead and post something afterwards, either later tonight or tomorrow or by the afternoon. It depends what time I get out of work, really. But with that out of the way, thank you again for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get into this debate. And yeah, make sure you have something to drink, sit back, relax. Let's get into it. Ooh.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive.
Oh, and just going on before we get too far into it, no, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I understand for us to vote in the primary election, you have to pick a side. But no, I usually just wait till we get there and I make my choice. I'm never one of those people that's going to make a choice before I see the person's platform or see what some of their policy ideas are going to look like for the oncoming 4 years. Always study these politicians. I know they seem cool, but they're normal people like us. Please study them and don't just follow blindly. All right, back to it.
Nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
All right. I'm just going to say this. Shout out to CNN for laying the ground rules, muting the mics, because as we all know, the last debate was a horrible mess. Shout out to them for making sure there's no studio audience, because you know there's going to be people in the crowd heckling, just going on both sides. It's not just Trump. You know, some Democrats don't have no chill, and they'll definitely act a little rowdy in a closed space. But yeah, shout out to CNN for setting the guidelines for the debate and making sure the mics are muted. Back to it.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of household where the kitchen tables, things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country.
I apologize, folks. Let me I had to refresh my page. My computer was having some issue. But that was Biden. Here's Trump.
We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is,
I'm taking the captions off. I know there was probably somebody out there reading them. I just can't. I'm going to try and read captions and listen to it. And my OCD is going to, well, my ADHD is going to just go through the roof. I said OCD. My apologies.
I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with them.
Okay. I'm just going to say this out the gate. First off, Trump wanted to take credit for the stock market. No. Put the X up for Wakanda. The stock market doesn't count. I even invest myself on the side. I have a retirement account with my job, and I do my own little investing on the side. But the stock market is heavily manipulated. If you don't know, yes, people, I'm telling you at home, the stock market is manipulated. The big banks, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, I think it was a Goldman Sachs, whatever. Like, they're known as like the big four or whatever. They basically have a heavy influence on the stock market, and so do any like of their subsidiary banks beneath them. They also have an impact on, have an influence on the stock market, because a lot of these banks have trading firms linked to them, and it's just a lot of manipulation. So that doesn't count. As for what he was saying earlier, when it comes to not Trump, Biden, is I'm kind of going to go back and forth here. So I'm not, I'm trying to be unbiased here. But in Biden's case, when he says he's the only president since Herbert Hoover, there's no one fact checking that. There's no one fact checking. Um, to my recollection, they said no notes or stuff like that were permitted in on here. I can, like, you can look at the podium and clearly see there's something there that he's reading off of a little bit. And I mean, I'm just saying, what are you looking down at on the podium? There's nothing there. I mean, they said no notes and stuff were allowed, but I mean, if he had like a pre-written or like an outline already, then I don't know. Like, that's kind of weird. What is Biden looking at? So yeah, he's, saying stuff that can't really be fact checked right there on the spot. As for Trump, he's coming at Biden with, the COVID mandates and stuff like that. And listen, Biden's just following the orders of actual doctors. There were actual doctors. Some people, they think Dr. Fauci and some of the other doctors were corrupt and all type of conspiracy theories. I'll let you guys find those out on your own. But what's the right way to say this? We did the best we could with what we had and the knowledge we had at the time, because when you have doctors literally working hours and hours trying to figure out this new vaccine for a sudden virus, it's kind of, it's a difficult thing. But also, I think there was some common sense that didn't get applied. Like, if any of you remember the H1N1 virus or swine flu, as some of us knew it as back in the day, I think like in middle school, that's when the swine flu came out and they said it was like affecting pigs or something like that. But anyway, every classroom had hand sanitizer. There was always a sign up that said wash your hands. It was pretty like, and naturally on its own, things worked themselves out. Yeah, people still caught it, but it didn't shut down the country. In the case of COVID, it was just a poor response on both ends, Republican and Democrat. All we really needed to do was just off the wrist, make the mask optional, put up wash your hands signs, have, incentivize stores to like keep a bottle of hand sanitizer or something outside. Just there was some common sense approach that we could have done to deal with the COVID virus more effectively. I know any pressure washers or cleaning services definitely got more money this COVID pandemic. Well, I'm sorry, COVID slash pandemic. I don't know how some people feel comfortable. I don't really consider it a pandemic because it was pretty quiet on my neck of the woods, but some places it wasn't. So
the minute that we give you, I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But
okay, I'm pause it right there. I gotta. Guys, you ever notice how you have lighters, but they always end up disappearing somewhere? I'm using a raw wick. The little hemp wicks they use to light your bongs, or I mean, you can use them to light anything. It's a little just piece of hemp rope. But yeah, look at that, people. Give a weed smoker a chance to come up with another way to light something, we'll find a way to light it. But I actually forgot about that. Listen, people, inflation was going to hit us either way. I know it was nice having stimulus checks and all that stuff coming from Trump, but any like economist with a bachelor's degree would sit down and tell you, you print more money, inflation will occur. And I mean, for years, we've been just printing money. So, in some weird, act of karma, this price inflation that we're suffering is kind of natural. It's kind of natural. Like, and I'm pretty sure at some point there's going to be another down cycle where things get cheaper for a time period. But yeah, the price of things have gone up drastically. I remember when oil went negative for a while because no one was going anywhere. And now it's a lot higher. It's back up in like $70, $80 a barrel now. So there's a lot of certain things that just have to go up naturally. We've been printing money for too long and we just have to go through it. Now we'll go through a period of deflation. That's when the dollar loses value. So as we go up in value, down in value, it kind of makes a little worm and we're just worming our way through it at this point. I'm not an economist, but that's just like an easy way to describe it to you. What's I going to say? I was rambling for a second there. I forgot what I was about to say. Oh yeah. So inflation was bound to happen. Um, it doesn't matter, Trump or Biden, even if Trump would have won and still been in office, the inflation would have occurred. It had to occur. There's no way you can just print millions, trillions, billions. You cannot print money without inflation occurring. It's just the way the cycle goes. But as for Trump and these tariffs, um, you guys probably know about the BRICS. So China, Russia, the whole eastern side of the globe has its own, network set up. They don't really need to include America. And the things they do need to send over here, I'm pretty sure they can just mark it up to where the tariff is already priced in. That's all they're going to do. So, I mean, I mean, damn, that's crazy. Trump will get his tariff, but if that 10% tariff translate to a 10% increase in price, did we really get anything? I mean, on the consumer side, the government, yeah, they get that's money they just take off the top. But what about us? You know, you get your 10% tariff, we get our 10% increase on goods.
He made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation. And it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs.
I know I said I was going to let it rock, but I got to, just keep certain tidbits of information in this stream just to help you guys keep a broad view. One of the key things that went into the retreat or our exit from Afghanistan was the Afghani military were supposed, keyword, supposed to keep the Taliban forces at bay. They didn't. They literally, like, they said, we're not going to fight our own people. We give up. So literally, as the U.S. is withdrawing forces, we have the Afghani military literally, backing out of their part of the deal. We spent billions of dollars to train their military, give them the weapons. There were certain military infrastructure transferred over to the civilian worlds, like certain centers and stuff. But the main thing is it was a total waste of money. The Afghani military did not hold their end of the bargain at all. So, in Trump's case, I'm pretty sure he would have been like Obama, because I got to drop more info. This withdrawal was seemingly supposed to start around Obama's administration. That's why there was the uptick in troops to help with the security and logistics needed to ensure a proper exit or retreat. Some people don't want to call it a retreat, but it was. We had to get the hell up out of there. And yeah, so that was a very crucial part. The Afghan military did not help at all. They basically rolled over, and it made it just so much easier for the Taliban to come in, because damn, I'm dropping too much knowledge. I got to let this fucking debate play. Excuse my language. But another little tidbit. We never really controlled the majority of Afghanistan. We controlled certain metro and city centers, but a lot of the rural mountain areas and villages had a lot of Taliban control. They basically just bordered on the outskirts of the Afghani border and resided in the mountains. They got tunnels and stuff. They basically just hit out on some guerrilla warfare type stuff. And eventually, as they noticed that the Afghan military wasn't going to fight them and hold them at bay, they pretty much just started swooping in mass. So yeah, that was a very crucial thing. I don't know how Trump would have responded to it. Maybe he would have just sent more troops to, fight off some of the oncoming forces. But I don't know. Sending more troops when we're supposed to be leaving just seems like it's going to lead to more of a, conflict. But back to the video. Let's go.
And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt.
Sorry for interrupting again. But shout out to CNN for actually having some facts on the table. Shout out to CNN. By the way, links down below in the description if you want to watch this video on your own. I know I'm talking a little too much, but back to it.
Why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in.
I'm sorry. I got to run that back. I'm sorry. I gotta run that back.
Finally beat Medicare.
Oh,
elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if
Trump looking at him like, buddy, you okay? Biden is buffering. Oh, I know I'm dated with that joke, but if any of you remember Windows Media Player back from like early to like 2008 and like earlier, y'all know that when you see buffering, that shit sucks, man. It's like, why can't you just play normal? Like smooth internet Wi-Fi. I hate when I just see this circle rotating on my screen. It's horrible. But yeah, Biden was buffering.
We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want.
I don't know if Biden been listening to rap music, but he said period one too many times. Like, after the first period, you good, bro. Period. Like, yeah. I'm sure there was somebody at home just like, speak on it. Oh man. But I ain't gonna lie, Trump is veering more towards the center. Before he was more on the far right side of things, but I see he's starting to come more towards the center. He's trying to appeal to both the Democrat and Republican voters at the same time. He's trying to go for a centered stance. And as far as, going back to the states, that ain't nothing new. It's actually one of the critical points in Republican theory. They want a smaller government so the states can have more power to govern themselves. And I'm not a Republican, but I can actually agree with that. Yeah, shrink the government down. Let the states do their own thing. And, just devote the real bulk of the government into the actual things, like the actual IRS. There were people waiting outside in Atlanta for hours just to file their taxes in Atlanta. So yeah, shrink the government down and focus what remaining government officials on the critical things that we need from the government. Like, get these taxes, get taxes processed, get people back their money. All right, back to the debate.
Depending on the state, you can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
Oh, man. And I think Trump is only like a couple years younger than Biden, but oh, man. Biden is buffering. And he's not like, and it's not his fault, because I actually know old people like this. Like my dad is like this actually. When he tries to, when he tries to speak, a little too quick or at a certain pace, he'll trip up and stutter a little bit. And sometimes it's not professional in the middle of the debate to just be like, take a breath and, catch yourself. Because, it just makes you look like, you just nervous, or you breaking under pressure. But, and I don't know about that 40% at the border. There's still a lot of migrant crime, but we don't know if those are newly arrived migrants or migrants that have recently crossed over. There are migrants being deported too, so it's a mixed bag on that. I'll probably have to fact check that. Somebody fact check that. Is there really 40% less people coming across the border?
President Trump?
If anyone gets the answer to that, just comment down below.
I don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Oh, man. Trump took a shot. That was a shot. But Biden, look. I don't know, Don. Okay, yeah, Biden old. Just see his little spots on him. With Trump, it's just his hair, man. Like why the sides look so, the sides look so different. Up top just look like, yeah, y'all already know. Y'all know. But let's get back to the debate. I'm laughing at old people. Let me stop. That's not proper.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history.
Trump just dropped a name dropping. Oh, let's see how Biden counters to this.
Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. and people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration killed an Al Qaeda person come in and his administration killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data.
Somebody get this man some water. Somebody get this man some water. He's parched. Get him some water. Tell him to relax a little, breathe. He's, you could tell he's getting a little flustered, and it's probably like causing him to, stutter a little bit more. But relax, Joe. Just relax.
To support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including
al-Baghdadi and Soleimani. I mean, I don't know who those guys are, but man, Trump dropping names.
Hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast, because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half, because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only...
Sorry, I had to look up what burn pits are just to get in there a little bit. So apparently a burn pit is when the U.S. military disposes of their trash by just dumping it in some type of like hole in the ground and burning it. And it lets off smoke that is toxic, and anyone nearby breathing it, smelling it can inhale some pretty foul stuff. And yeah. So, damn, I'm sorry. Well, I don't know if it's the one that got convicted, but his other son, if there's more than one son, I'm sorry that happened to him because, damn, that's fucked up. But I'm pretty sure he's straight, you know. So you can sue the military for something like that. Best believe money was paid.
end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it.
My cat literally just sprawled out next to me like a cat. I was wondering where he was. He's right next to me. He's just sprawled out in my shadow. I guess that's why I call him Shadow.
But in fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is.
Burn. He's really driving home that Afghanistan angle. And I mean, Biden can break it down and explain it to him like I did earlier, but How he may feel about it is different. Let's go.
He never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him.
Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off a little bit early tonight. I know I said I was going to react to the whole thing, but I kind of see how the debate is going already. I'm going to upload this. Let me see. I'm not going to upload the let me see, but I'm probably going to break this up into a two-parter. I would stay up, but I already know I don't like getting up before work in the morning. It takes me forever to get up. But yeah, but from the jump, Biden is looking pretty weak in the opening rounds of this debate. You know, are Putin terms for ending Russia's war against you? Let me let him finish.
Him, I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly.
Clock it. He said he's going to end the war. Clock it. If Trump ends the war, okay, listen, I'm not saying that Trump is the Antichrist, but if he is able to back up this, what he's saying, then he just might be the Antichrist.
And I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President
know,
Biden, you have a minute.
the fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies.
At this point, oh, Jesus. Oh, man. I mean, it's a good thing. Hey, the gun manufacturers got work. But, bruh, like, come on. You never give money. Like when a homeless person tell me they hungry, I remember the story time randomly. I remember I was out one day and there was a homeless man. He said, "Hey, I'm hungry. You got some money?" I literally took the 2 McDoubles because I was working at McDonald's. I, would take some McDoubles every now and then. I took the 2 McDoubles and just gave them to him and said, "Hey, man, here's 2 McDoubles. They haven't been opened at all and they're warm. Enjoy." And he was like, "Thank you." So yeah, like, no, like, even if I was a country, if I'm gonna lend aid, it's never gonna be money. It's never gonna be money. It's probably gonna be like maybe material, like, some lumber from, American, lumberjack or Canadian, wood harvest in North America. Basically, do it like that. And what's another, steel, other, general construction materials, anything that's still US based, I would try to double down on that. But oh, let me go ahead and wrap this up. I got to take my black butt to bed. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in with me. Y'all have a good night. And I'll be back tomorrow with more of this debate reaction.